Today is January the 22nd. 50 years ago today, in Washington, D.C., the Supreme Court of the United States passed the Roe v. Wade decision which legalized abortion in the United States. Last summer, as you know, on June the 24th, which was the feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned by the Supreme Court. Every year, the Catholic Church in the United States, around this particular anniversary date of January the 22nd, every year the Church in the United States has what is called a day of prayer for the legal protection of unborn children, and that's tomorrow. Tomorrow, throughout the United States, is a day of prayer for the legal protection of unborn children. So when you pray tomorrow, please remember that intention in your prayers. Today I want to share with you a few reflections about abortion. After the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned last summer, the issue of abortion was returned to the states. And so the states have differing laws regarding abortion. From the point of view of the Catholic Church, all human life is sacred. All human life is a gift. All human life should be protected from the moment of conception. It is a grave sin to have an abortion. Also, the persons who cooperate in the abortion, to some degree, are guilty of that sin. They share the guilt. For example, the doctor or the nurses who participate in the abortion, they share in the sin. You have people in the family, like many times the fathers are forgotten in abortion. Some fathers are heartbroken. They are heartbroken because of the abortion of their children. Other fathers very much are in favor of it. So it depends. It depends. The point I'm trying to make is not only is it a sin for the mother, but those who participate in the abortion share some of the guilt associated with that particular sin. Abortion is one of the most common surgeries in the United States. One of the most common. It is estimated, and that's all it is an estimate, that since 1973, 50 years ago, since 1973, when abortion was legalized, that there have been more than 60 million surgical abortions in the United States alone, not counting the rest of the world, just this country. I used to go to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in downtown Memphis often. I was the pastor of a parish that was not too far from there. And when I would go to visit those families, the sorrow and the sadness, it was palpable. You could feel it, especially when the child died. I did 7 of the funerals for those children. 7 of those funerals. It's so difficult to mourn for one child who dies. So difficult. How do you mourn for 60 million? So difficult to mourn for one. How do you mourn for 60 million? You see, the reason I'm telling you this is because many people in the modern world have grown up and the only thing they've known is legalized abortion. They have become desensitized to it. So it's important to call our attention to how contrary to the will of God that is, and what a grievous sin that it is. You know what the primary reasons are that people have abortions? You know what the primary reasons are? I wrote down a few of them. These are the primary ones. The point I'm trying to make is the reasons people primarily have abortions are not medical in nature. They are not. These are the primary reasons. A woman would say this: having a baby will interfere with my work, with my school, or my other responsibilities. Another one: I can't afford a child now. Another one, I don't want to be a single parent. In other words, the father has abandoned the mother of the child. The father has abandoned her. This is another one. Has to do with relational difficulties between the man and the woman. The father will say to, the man will say to the woman, if you don't abort the child, I'm leaving. If you don't abort the child, I'm leaving. And what will end up happening is the child will be aborted. But it's a relational difficulty between the man and the woman, between the man and the woman. Again, it's one of the most common surgeries in the United States. You ever been to Florida? On vacation? You ever been to Florida? I've been there a bunch of times. My brother lives there. If you walk along the beaches of Florida, in certain places, if you walk along certain beaches in Florida, you'll see these signs, maybe you've seen these signs, and it'll be of a turtle. You ever seen this? Una tortuga. It's a turtle, and the turtle is smiling. The turtle is smiling. And underneath the smiling turtle, you will read the following. Do not disturb the turtle eggs. To disturb these eggs is a violation of local, state, and federal law. And if you disturb these eggs, you will be fined a certain amount of money. Can you explain to me how in this great country, can you explain to me how we protect by law unhatched turtles, but we do not protect unborn babies? You see, you must think about this a little bit. You must think about it a little bit. In some of the parishes that I've been in before, they had the Boy Scouts. And the Boy Scouts would always invite me to participate in their gatherings, whatever they would do. I always enjoyed doing that. I didn't like the food. They don't cook very well, but I always enjoyed going with them. Always going with them. And one of the things which they loved to show me was their ability to navigate with a compass. Now, they have a compass, and the compass always points to magnetic north. And what would happen is they would go out in the field or go in the church parking lot, and they would navigate. And they would teach me how to navigate. It always points to magnetic north. You have a compass in you, amigos. You have a compass in you. And the compass, if it's properly formed, should point to truth. It's called your conscience. Your conscience should point to truth. And then when you find yourself in a moral dilemma, you can consult your conscience, and then you know what is true and what is false, and then you can act accordingly. You have a compass in you. It should point to truth. Truth. Do you know that countries have consciences? You know that the countries have consciences. When I was growing up in the 1950s, I think, and this is just my point of view, that the conscience of the United States, for the most part, pointed to truth. I remember that as a boy. What does it point to now? The conscience of the United States. What does it point to now? I would say it does this. Watch. That's called situational ethics. And what that means is there is no absolute truth. Nothing is always right. For you, abortion might be right, but for me it's wrong. You know what I mean? Today I am a man, tomorrow I am a woman. Next day I am both. You see, it depends on the situation and what you want or what you don't want. It's all really regarded to your circumstance. But there is no truth. There is no truth. This is happening in the United States. You can see it in many, many, many different moral issues. Pope John Paul II, now St. John Paul, when he came to the United States, I remember seeing this. He would get off of his airplane. You remember this? He would get off his airplane, and he would come down the steps, and when he was able, he would bend down and he'd kiss the ground. He would kiss the ground of the country he was visiting. Then he would stand up and he would go in front of all these microphones and all these cameras. And he would say this to the United States. This is a culture of death. What a thing to say. This is a culture of death. And what did he mean when he said that? What did he mean when he said that? He was talking about a whole series of attacks on human life. series of them. For example, contraception, widely practiced, even by Catholics in the United States. It's estimated that like 95% of Catholic couples practice contraception. It's not open to life. This is what he was talking about. This is what he was talking about. He was talking about, say for instance, assisted suicide. He was talking about euthanasia. But above all, he was talking about abortion. And this is what he was trying to call attention to on the part of the people of the United States, that they have created, that in this country, a culture of death. You know what Mother Teresa said? I'll ask you a question, maybe you can answer it. What do you think she said was the greatest destroyer of peace in the world? Is what she said. What is the greatest destroyer of peace in the world, per Mother Teresa? I would have thought it would have been a nuclear proliferation, something like that, where a terrorist gets a nuclear bomb and can blow up a city or something like that. That's not what she said. She said, the greatest destroyer of peace in the world, is abortion. You know why she said that? What she meant? What she meant was the following. That if it is legal in a country to take the life of the one who is most innocent, most vulnerable, and has no voice. If you can take the life of the innocent, the vulnerable, and the one who has no voice, then all other violence is legitimized. All other violence is legitimized, if you can do that. Look at what is happening in American cities. You see the violence, the murder. Look at what's happening in Chicago. Look at what's happening in Memphis, where I live. Look at it. And you can see how the breakdown of morality is occurring, and the violence is increasing. Violence is increasing. I think sometimes we have forgotten that all life comes from God, and He determines when you live, and He determines when you die. He determines that. It's a gift that you have been given, your life. Your life is a gift. In the book of the prophet Jeremiah, many of you have this passage memorized. In Jeremiah chapter 1 says the following. The Lord is talking about you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. Before you were born, I consecrated you. It is easy to condemn abortion. Everybody knows it's wrong. Even the people, in my opinion, who are pro-abortion, I think deep down inside of them, in their core, in their heart, they know that's wrong. They know that's wrong. But I would be unbalanced here. It would be unbalanced if I just stand here and condemn it. That's only part of the picture. God is just, that's true. You get what you deserve. But on the other hand, God is merciful. He is merciful. You know what the definition of mercy is? Mercy is undeserved forgiveness. It's forgiveness which is given to you that you don't deserve. That's mercy. And God is just, you get what you deserve, and He's merciful, which means He extends to you undeserved forgiveness. One of my prior assignments as a priest was to be the chaplain in 3 federal prisons in Florida. And one of the prisons happened to be a prison for women felons. There were like 350 women felons there. I was there for like 3.5 years, and after I'd been there for about a year, I kind of became friends with them. They would come to me, and not only the Catholic criminals, not only the Catholic crooks, but the other ones who would come, it would be Buddhist, Hindu, a Protestant, Jewish, it doesn't matter. They would come to me. They would come to me. I would be the priest with my little collar on. And they would say, Father, I had 7 abortions. Father, I had 5. Father, I had 3 abortions. They wouldn't go to the the psychologist in the prison, because every prison has one, a psychologist. They wouldn't go to the guards who they were friends with, or something like that. They come to me. You know why they come to the priest? For one reason and one alone. They had one question. One question. All of them did. It didn't matter about their religion. They had one question. You know what it was? Will God forgive me? It's what they always want to know. Will God forgive me? And I'd always tell them the same thing. The same thing. I would say, girl, sometimes the greatest saints are the ones who used to be the greatest sinners. And if you don't believe that, look at the Bible. Look at Mary Magdalene. What was her former occupation before she became saint? Perhaps she had abortions. We don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. The tradition of the church is that she was a prostitute. And then she meets Christ. Christ drives 7 devils from that woman. 7 devils from that woman. You can read Luke's Gospel if you want to about that. 7 devils are driven from her. One of the greatest saints in the church. If I ask you to look at the Bible and to say, who is the first person that Jesus Christ appeared to after he rose from the dead, who would it be? It's her. It's her. Sometimes the greatest saints are the ones who used to be the greatest sinners. You know why that is? You know why that is? It's because when a person has some history of sin in their life, they come to understand how destructive that it is and how it steals their joy and steals their self-respect and affects other people who are participants in the sin as well. They come to understand that when people are grievously sinful. They understand it. And therefore they never want to do what? To return to that. They never want to come back to that. That's Mary Magdalene. You can also look at Paul. You know, Paul, he was an accomplice to murder. Some scholars say that he would have committed other murders. We don't know for sure. In the Bible it says that he was an accomplice to the murder of St. Stephen. He stood by and held the coats. He was an accomplice to murder. If I ask you who wrote the majority of the books in the New Testament, who would you say? Paul. You see, great sinners can become great saints. Great saints. Another one, just real quick, then I'll finish. You know, Jesus, he was crucified between 2 crooks, between 2 criminals. One of the criminals we call the good thief, one we call, I guess, the bad thief. It was a bad thief. One was a good thief. And before he died, in the last minutes of his life, he repents. You know, Jesus, forgive me. And Jesus says what to him? Remember, this very day you will be with me in paradise. If I ask you, please listen. Who is the first person into paradise? The first person into paradise, who would you say? It's a crook who repents in the last minutes of his life. In the last minutes of his life. Huh? The guy was really a good thief. He stole heaven. You have to think about that. The guy stole heaven. He's a remarkable thief. Remarkable. There is no sin. There is no sin which is beyond the mercy of Almighty God. None. If you ever meet a person who's had an abortion, whether it's a woman or whether it's a man who concurred in one, a doctor who conducted them, a nurse who participated in, if you meet somebody who in one way or another is associated with abortion, look up here, do me a favor. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't push them away. What you need to do is this. And you tell them about God's mercy. And you tell them about love. And you tell them about mercy and about love. Because there is no sin. There is no sin which is beyond God's mercy. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.